All right. Good evening, WNBA and women's basketball fans, and welcome in to the WNBA 365 Network, your comprehensive home for all things WNBA and women's basketball. Joining you folks here tonight on another gloomy Monday here in Southern California, joined for the meantime by our good friend Crystal Thomas. We will have our other Dynamite co-host Marquez Anderson joining us momentarily, joining us, of course, from the Project Spurs Network and StarsHoops.net. Crystal, good to see you for the time being right now until we get Marquez in here. How is it going?
Uh, Going well, tired, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, the gloomy weather down here, as we like to call it, June gloom down here in Southern California, is not helping anybody out right now. With that, though, folks, of course, we'll take your input as usual on Facebook, Twitter, and in our live chat box. Find us over on Facebook, facebook.com/WNBA365, or you can find us as well on Twitter at WNBA365, at Calimac3, at Omarquez, or at Pup1010 with the hashtag WNBA365, or of course find the live chat box. Looks like we're having some minor connection problems with the chat box. We hope that those will be refixed. It looks like it's been refixed, so of course the chat box as well is open for you folks as well. Folks, before we do get off during the night, one quick note. I know that we made it public yesterday after we announced the final scores of yesterday's games on Sunday. Again, there are 3 separate weeks of no network programming due to network vacation periods coming up. Their first one coming up from June 19th till June 25th, and then as well next month, July 13th through 21st, and of course in August, August 5th through 13th as well. So those 3 weeks we will have no coverage for the network. Of course, I'll be actually out of town at an event in Las Vegas in June, going back in July for a buddy's birthday, and of course in August I'll be up in San Francisco for the annual baseball tournament I help announce. And at this point, Crystal also could be actually at the WNBA All-Star Game in Seattle. She's working on her vacation plans for that week in July. With that, Crystal, some news to get to. One news story, and then one that I found a couple days ago and never really got across to it. And then we'll also announce our network player of the week for this week and get to the 3-game schedule for tomorrow. So kind of a fast-moving, brief show this evening for you folks. And again, we appreciate you folks tuning in and joining us tonight on the program. Crystal, the WNBA announced their weekly Eastern Conference and Western Conference players of the week, and respectively, both deserving. Tina Charles, the New York Liberty for the East, and of course, Diana Taurasi from the Phoenix Mercury for the West. Of course, DT breaking Katie Smith's career 3-point record over the weekend in the Mercury's victory in Chicago. And also, again, Tina Charles, as we've talked about many times, Crystal, has been, the main component, main go-to player for this New York team so far. Crystal, give us your takeaway first for DT being named Western Conference Player of the Week. Obviously, they stumbled in a loss to New York just 24 hours ago. But, of course, Diana breaking the record, of course, for the most career three-pointers made in her illustrious Hall of Fame 10-plus year career, all of it in Phoenix. Crystal, overall, give us your thoughts about Diana's week in regards to both the record-shattering and her overall play, somewhat bouncing back after a couple of early rough games earlier in the season.
Well, you kind of just said, it was great for her to bounce back. But with a player like Diana Taurasi, I'm not really surprised she bounced back. I'm not really surprised that she broke Katie Smith's record. I'm not really surprised that she got Player of the Week. She's a tremendous player, really good player, definitely a future Hall of Famer. It's just good to see her finally getting back to her old ways after a shaky start.
Crystal, I know that in recent couple days, and recently at least, we've had a lot of discussion about the 2020 Olympic Games, which is, of course, 3 years down the turnpike, coming up in 2020. And, of course, we've heard Diana's quote saying, I want to play with Sue Bird as long as possible until, either my body stops caring for me, I'm going to stop playing. And, of course, it's been mentioned, too, about how she's really had to somewhat change her off-court status. At least, of course, we had heard the reports from Kara Lawson during the early part of the season that she had gone to the vegan diet a la Kara Lawson, and somewhat, again, trying to find new ways to, again, kind of keep her body in tip-top shape. And, of course, Crystal, she's not a spring chicken. But, Crystal, what would, I guess, a DT appearance at the 2020 Olympic Games, I guess, do for Team USA? Is it perhaps in your mind an overstayed welcome, or is it the fact that it's a player that wants to go out there and continue to do what she does best for as long as she can?
Well, assuming assuming she actually does play in the 2020 Olympics, I mean, that's 4 years from now, and I don't know if Diana Taurasi realistically will be playing that long in even Olympics. But if she does make it, I mean, I don't know if you can say it's an overstayed welcome, but I would like to see a younger player get that opportunity to actually be a part of Team USA, because that is a great experience for people to play for their country. But assuming she does make it that far, I mean, I guess it'd be pretty interesting, but we won't know for sure.
Now, Crystal, of course, Diana is on her way to a record-setting season. Again, we already brought up the three-point record, of course, broken against the Sky a couple days ago in Chicago. That, of course, Katie Smith had a great tweet, of course, congratulating DT. And, of course, now closing in on Tamika Catchings in the scoring category. Crystal, in your mind, obviously, with the championships won at the college level and the WNBA level and the gold medals, Crystal, what do you think it would mean for Diana to have shattered a couple of league records during the season in your mind? I mean, I know that players don't like to talk about the individual awards they receive or what have you, but what would, I guess, it mean, though, for her to someone, again, to set two, maybe three records during one whole season of play?
I mean, I think that means a lot for her legacy. That means a lot for Phoenix, a lot for her, a lot for the organization. It'd be a pretty cool thing to see. I mean, like you said, she is getting older. We don't know how much long she's going to play, even though she says she's going to play to her body, feels like she can't go anymore. But, I mean, for her to still be able to play at a high level at that age, it's pretty incredible.
By the way, for those of you folks wondering, our poll question for Player of the Week will close in about 20 minutes. So if you've not voted yet, cast your votes on the WNBA 365 Network Twitter page or our Facebook page. And again, we'll have those results for you folks in roughly 20 minutes. So again, if you've not voted, vote, of course, for Player of the Week. Again, your four nominees are Charles, Deladon, Fowles, and DT. Those are your four guesses or four nominees. So again, if you have not voted, please do so ASAP. Crystal, moving now from DT to the other UConn grad on the floor on Sunday. Tina Charles again had another monster week for the Liberty. Again, a couple of wins, or at least a win, worth noting for the Libs over the Merc roughly 24 hours ago. Thank you. So, Crystal, I think we've had Tina in our discussion for Player of the Week on the poll question. We've talked, we really have sung the praises. But again, Crystal, I think it is worth noting again that we have kind of seen somewhat of the same, the same act from TC. And again, not knocking her. Again, she's played a phenomenal stretch of the season. It's been great to watch and fun to watch. But Crystal, if she does not hold up anytime soon, what does that mean for New York in your mind? Because obviously we've talked about it plenty of times about, about more players having to step up in situations to help her out. Of course, we had Kia Stokes at her career high for points in the win over Phoenix. But Crystal, other than Tina Charles, what else is or what is the identity of the Liberty outside of Tina Charles?
I mean, that's pretty much it. They pretty much just have Tina Charles, but we did see pretty big games, two good games, actually, two straight from Javonte Zellis. I think they're going to need more consistency out of her. I think if she can get it going, she can help them big, especially with Vaughn and Prince out. I know especially Prince, because Prince is out, Tina Charles has to take probably a lot more shots than they would want her to, which means more wear and tear in her body going on along the season. But if Zellis can be consistent and continuously play like that, then I think they'll have a chance.
And also, folks, real quick as well, want to bring this up, but the chat box connection problem has been restored, so it is open for you folks at this point to send in your questions, comments, or concerns about the program or whatever you may want us to bring up here on the program again this evening. So again, chat box problem has been resolved. And again, Crystal, you just brought up too about obviously Kia Vaughn and Epiphany Prince being gone for the Eurobasket tournament. Crystal, in your mind, does that somewhat hurt New York in regards to their depth at this point? Obviously, we've talked plenty of times, as we've mentioned, about how Tina Charles has been the main, player to go to. Crystal, does having two players gone for New York perhaps spell some, perhaps a little minor concern perhaps in your mind in regards to what Tina's workload will perhaps be over the next couple of games and weeks?
Are you saying as far as regards of do I think it's going to be more work on Tina Charles?
Yes.
Or, well, yeah. I see the thing about New York is like I don't think they really get enough pieces around Tina Charles. They have some good ones, you know, don't get me wrong, but I just don't think that realistically they are getting the right pieces to get around her so she could go further. I mean, we all see Tina Charles kind of just stops in second round oblivion. I mean, she hasn't really been able to get past that. It's because they really don't have any help. I mean, they're some would consider them, I don't, but some would consider them a contender. But I feel that for them to be a contender, they definitely need more than just Tina Charles.
You know, Crystal, they're certainly in the mix, you know, and I'm not ready to put them in the caliber yet. Keyword there is yet, you know, bold it, italicize it, underline it, shadow it. Again, not quite ready yet to put New York in that upper echelon yet, with Minnesota, Los Angeles, and Phoenix is getting back there at this point in time. But obviously they would need to get reinforcements. In Crystal, if, hypothetical situation, if in fact New York does bomb out somewhere before the WNBA finals this season, would you perhaps see some roster turnover for New York to perhaps help Charles out? Or would you expect maybe other roster moves made, maybe, call me crazy, seeing Charles go somewhere else perhaps? Or what would perhaps happen in your mind if in fact New York did bomb out in a hypothetical situation before the league finals?
I don't think we'll see Charles go anywhere. I mean, it's kind of hard to say. Maybe they'll try to help her a little bit, making more moves on the roster, but I don't know if we'll see Charles go anywhere. I mean, you might see a coaching change. I don't know if that's possible either, but I mean, I don't see Charles leaving though.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, hypothetical situation. We've seen crazier things happen already with players, forcing their way out of certain cities or what have you. But obviously, again, though, folks, congrats, though. All seriousness, though, congrats again to UConn grads, both Tina Charles of the New York Liberty and Diana Taurasi of the Phoenix Mercury, named your WNBA League Players of the Week. And of course, folks, our poll question is ending in less than 10 minutes. So again, folks, if you're not voted, again, do so on the network Twitter handle or on the network Facebook page. So roughly, actually, scratch it, folks. So under 20 minutes now here for this poll question. So again, go ahead and vote over on the WNBA 365 network Twitter handle or on our Facebook page at this point in time. Crystal, one very interesting story that I saw a couple days and weeks ago, but just coming back to the forefront, Crystal, has been around potential WNBA league expansion. This due to the fact that Lisa Borders has been somewhat visible at Oracle Arena during the NBA Western Conference Finals and the NBA Finals, talking, of course, to the man himself, Joe Lacob, of course, Crystal, who 3 years ago came in to somewhat be the first person that the WNBA talked to about the potential relocation of the LA Sparks out of LA to the Bay Area. Now, Crystal, the Warriors are moving out of Oracle Arena at this point, according to sources, moving into their new arena in San Francisco by October of next season. And Crystal, we know about Joe's past, obviously, in regards to the old women's league back in the 90s, of course, the San Jose Lasers, where he was the richest investor in that league before it collapsed a couple of years later, before the WNBA came along. Crystal, I know that we have been lobbying a lot in recent years for league growth and expansion, of course, and obviously the Bay Area, Crystal, with what the Warriors have done in recent years, along with their D-League affiliate, or G-League affiliate right now in Santa Cruz, along with them going to a new arena. Crystal, would the Bay Area, obviously with the Kings and Warriors being available in that area, would you perhaps, in your mind, if you had a chance, or if you were to consider it, would you place a WNBA franchise in Northern California in either of those two cities, or what would you do?
I mean, if the city's going to receive it well, if they would have an owner or, personally a place for them to play in place, then sure. But I feel like you would also have to add even it out, because it'd be uneven still. But I mean, if the city wants it, if somebody's willing to pay for the team, then go for it.
Crystal, one quick comment to kind of harp back on our hypothetical situation about the Liberty. Todd Mintzwinter chimed in. He said, "Hey, Kia Stokes, don't forget that she had two tremendous games against the Wings." And Merck also says, "Doubt Lambier goes anywhere since, of course, his former teammate Isaiah Thomas is the Liberty GM." So great point brought up there. And it was a hypothetical situation about what would happen, but again, obviously that those bad boys, they love each other to death. So highly doubt seeing that happen. And Crystal, I agree with you, though, in regards that if you are going to expand, it needs to be one in the West, one out East. Obviously, the Western Conference, LA, Phoenix, Seattle, two teams in Texas, and then Minnesota is somewhat of the borderline, I'd say, for the WNBA for West and East. Crystal, obviously, we talked about the West. Now, I know that we had a preseason tournament held in Orlando at the ESPN Wide World of Sports back in 2014 or 15, I want to say. We've had or heard some rumblings about perhaps Tennessee or Kentucky maybe as well. Crystal, at least in the east side of the U.S., what other markets, I think, out there do you believe would perhaps support a WNBA franchise? Obviously, we already have Connecticut, of course, in Unkinsville. We've got, some other places. But obviously, Orlando having a former franchise, Crystal, I mean, I think I've brought this up plenty of times in the 3 years you've been on here. But, Crystal, could we perhaps, I guess, try and go back and bring back, W franchises back to cities that once had franchises in maybe 10, 20 years down the road or what have you? What do you think could possibly happen with perhaps former league cities?
I mean, I think it's a possibility, but again, you have to make sure the city wants it. You have to make sure there's a place for them to play. You have to make sure that whoever ends up possibly owning the team understands WNBA and understands the market, understand how it works. I mean, if like I said, if the city wants it and if they can get fans and if they can get people to come to the games, and go for it. But it's all about, picking the right place, picking a place that will be receptive to fans, and having an owner who understands the business of the league and the ins and outs of it as well.
Now, Crystal, one NBA franchise outside of Golden State comes to mind, and that would be the Portland Trailblazers and their star Damian Lillard, who tweeted just a couple days ago. He said that Portland would definitely support the WNBA because of how the Blazers have really turned that city around in regards to their attendance. Now, obviously, Portland, of course, Crystal, did have the Portland Fire for a couple of years. But really, Crystal, at least what I've seen, as a broadcaster and sports fan, Portland has really shifted from basketball to Major League Soccer with how the Portland Timbers have really made their home games a spectacular scene at Providence Park. But, Crystal, what if perhaps, hypothetical situation here again, in regards where you have, obviously we have with Seattle right now, obviously they just extended the lease for at least the next 10 years at Key Arena. Crystal, if in fact, though, Portland puts their hat into the ring for a potential franchise, would you expect any former Blazer front office members or even famous Blazer players to be a part of the group, a la Magic Johnson with the Sparks, a la Isaiah Thomas and Bill Laimbeer with the Liberty? Crystal, could more NBA influence, I guess, help a city like Portland perhaps bring a WNBA team back to their home market?
I think so. I mean, obviously, it'll probably have to take more than just former players. I mean, it'll have to take the city itself, somebody who has a big checkbook to own the team and get it together and get it going. But, I mean, maybe Portland would be a good place. But, again, I mean, it'd be another team on the West. You'd have to try to get a team on the East to try to even it out.
Crystal, I still think, though, that the top priority would probably be the Bay Area, only because right now, I mean, for at least since the Monarchs folded, there's been no intrastate California rival for Los Angeles. They either have the rivalries with Phoenix 5 hours east or 2 hours up north in Seattle. And obviously, the Bay Area would add at least one somewhat off day or a rest day from them going all the way from Seattle down to Los Angeles. Crystal, one question from Todd. No snickering, no laughing, Crystal, at the question. He's asking, do either of us feel that Atlanta would move to a city like Louisville, where, of course, Angel McCoughtry had gone to college there? Or do you think it would be an expansion team for somewhere like Louisville in your mind? Or even, again, in potential other cities that want to put their hat in the ring, Crystal? I guess, Crystal, how about relocation? Obviously, we last saw this, of course, with Dallas moving from Tulsa a couple seasons ago. We've seen it, of course, with other cities, a la Orlando and Connecticut. Crystal, obviously, would you rather expand the WNBA or force more teams to relocate out of, as of right now, in your mind, maybe cities that are right now still struggling to go to WNBA games in your mind?
I wouldn't force the team out, because if you force a team out, who's to say that a city, example, like you said, Louisville, I mean, who's to say that the city of Louisville wants a WNBA team? Yeah, they support their college team, but places like that are college towns. Like, for example, Tulsa didn't start getting support till before they left, before they went to Dallas. So I don't think you could just put a team somewhere and force them there. I think you have to actually see if fans will really be receiving towards it, receptive towards it. I don't know if Louisville would be an ideal spot, maybe, but I'm not really sure.
Now, Crystal, obviously, I think the bigger city I've been missing in the WNBA pond here, it has got to be the Space City. It's got to be Houston. I mean, that city still loves and cares about its Comets, Crystal. For God's sake, they have the championship banners and numbers still up at Toyota Center where the Rockets call home. Crystal, what would it mean for the WNBA in your mind if, after all these years of not having the marquee, one of the marquee franchises of the WNBA gone for so long? What would it mean for maybe for the league, but also for the city of Houston and those fans down there that really packed Compact Center to the roof in the 90s? What would it mean perhaps to bring back potentially, or not potentially, the greatest WNBA franchise of all time in the Houston Comets?
Well, I mean, hopefully to bring them back, you would have. I know the owner couldn't. If I remember correctly, he wasn't really making much money with the Comets after a certain point in time, and he couldn't own both teams, so he kind of folded one. So if you do that, you would either have to get another owner that can just control that team, or you would have to hopefully, I guess, if the Houston Rockets owner was trying to get the team again, hopefully he does it better this time. I mean, I think Houston would work. I think a lot of fans would like to see the Comets come back because it's such a historical franchise. I got tongue-tied there. Mm-hmm. It's such a historical franchise that, I think me, as a fan, I would enjoy seeing them back. I mean, I used to love their rivalries between LA and Sacramento and stuff like that. So I would love to see them back, but I don't know if realistically a team like that will come back. Well, you never know.
Now, Crystal, I want to go back to a point you brought up too about perhaps an odd number league. Now, again, folks, I mentioned about that vacation period I'm taking in a couple weeks in June. The reason being is because the NHL, the National Hockey League, is going to Las Vegas next season. And Crystal, it's going to be a 31-team league next season. They've already announced how it's going to be aligned in regards to divisions and also in regards to how the draft is going to work and also the schedule in regards to how you play your division and conference. Crystal, obviously, it's going to be a little interesting to see an odd numbered league, at least at this point, for, again, one of the major sports on the market. But Crystal, Todd just chimed in too in regards to, again, we talk about Louisville. Crystal, he also says, no snickering and no laughing. Hold that to yourself. Would Louisville or Memphis be the most likely destination looked at if an interested buyer over if there's interest over any other city in the South or the East right now? Again, I still think Orlando's a good spot because, again, they did have that team there. Yeah, they had the Miracle there for a few years, along with the fact, too, that again, they had a pretty well-attended preseason tournament a couple of seasons ago down there at the ESPN Wide World of Sports. So, Crystal, again, to kind of go back to what we talked about, but in reality, what other cities in regards to either former cities or even powerhouse college towns, Crystal, at least in your mind, give us a couple of cities in your mind. Again, this is your opinion. You're in charge. You get to expand the league. What cities would you probably go to on the East Coast at least? Probably
Orlando, since they did the preseason games there and it was pretty well received. I don't know if Memphis or Louisville would be ready for that yet. I don't know if they would have. I'm not saying that there's no fans there, but overall, I don't know if there would be enough fans to keep an organization going. So I'd probably say Orlando.
Crystal, again, banking off an earlier question again, and again, this topic, again, folks, was kind of spurred on in the moment. Again, there was a couple stories that I saw again about Lisa Borders attending both the NBA Western Conference and, of course, the NBA Finals, of course, meeting with Joe Lacob, the owner of the Golden State Warriors. Crystal, I know that when the NBA or when the WNBA first started, of course, that all 8 teams were owned by their NBA counterparts, and of course, I believe only less than half are still owned by the NBA teams. Crystal, do you think, could you perhaps potentially seeing any current or any other NBA teams maybe taking a minor leap of faith and trying out a WNBA franchise for a couple of years, maybe in certain other cities across the NBA spectrum at least, or what do you think?
I could probably see a few owners, willing to risk it and own a WNBA team. I think the ones that don't are probably more focused on their team and probably won't have the time to actually sit there and micromanage a team, especially if you have, I'm just going to use Golden State as an example, even though they don't own a team, especially if you have a team like that, like one's in the playoffs and the other one's kind of just starting their season out. So it's probably going to be a little bit too hard to do both. But I mean, I could possibly see it, but I think more of the ownership is going to come from people who aren't a part of any NBA organizations.
Crystal, we brought up about the Rockets, and one more team that comes to mind is the Charlotte Hornets. Now, again, they just revamped up Spectrum Center down there in Charlotte. Of course, Michael Jordan being ahead of it as well. I don't know, Crystal. I mean, obviously, with the Carolinas at least. Now, again, I know that Don Staley coaches South Carolina. Of course, the Hornets play in Charlotte, NC. Crystal, I really wonder, though, if perhaps Michael Jordan would even take a leap of faith for this as well. So, again, we brought up about Orlando. Now, Crystal, I think to kind of go back to the West Coast at least real quick, maybe outside of Golden State or the Bay Area, so we'll just say San Francisco. Let's just go San Francisco for right now. What other maybe potential West Coast cities would perhaps take a leap of faith and perhaps put their hat in the ring for WNBA expansion?
Sacramento, probably, because they were talking about bringing the Monarchs back. I don't know if they're going to do that, but they've been talking about that for a few years. Any other West Coast areas that you would consider? I mean, Sacramento's the only one that I know that they were trying to get. But I mean, that's the only thing that can come to mind right now.
Obviously, Sacramento, of course, comes to mind because the new arena obviously a new arena, Crystal, obviously, makes my eyes, grow big like flying saucers, because that's a very good, way to somewhat get the conversation started, of course. And I think that with Kevin Johnson, great Phoenix Sun in his tenure playing in the NBA, of course, being a, former basketball player, and of course, saving the Kings in Sacramento. And I think he's even, before he left the Merrill's office in Sacktown, really was behind the movement of bringing the Monarchs back to the city to the capital city of California. So, Chris, we brought up Portland, we brought up Sacramento and San Francisco. I don't even know where to go with this one, but Crystal, how about new market cities, maybe like my hometown of San Diego, in regards to maybe, new areas trying to bring in, or at least, new areas that, of course, that may have had like a fractured sports history. San Diego's one, of course, having lost two NBA teams to Houston and Los Angeles, maybe somewhere else in Texas, somewhere in Colorado or Utah. Crystal, maybe what other new market cities in regards to maybe, either location or population, what other major medium markets could perhaps at least give it a shot? What do you think?
New market cities. I mean, you can say some of the cities that had teams in the past, but like, since we know what happened to them and the reason why they left in the first place, I mean, it's kind of like, do you want to risk it and put them back where they were to begin with? I mean, I really don't know as far as new market city. I would say if you wanted to do a new market city, it's easier said than done, but you could just try the cities that have NBA teams first and see how it works out there. I mean, it might not work, but you never know. I mean, that's the only thing I would say is like, try the places that have NBA teams first.
Smart move. And if I ever hit the lotto, I'm bringing the WNBA to San Diego, but that won't happen until we get a new arena. Otherwise, we'll be playing at college venues. Crystal, speaking of NBA cities, Todd chimes in. What do you think about Denver, Colorado? I think that'd be a pretty good place to go. Obviously, Stan Kroenke has got a sports monopoly up there, owning the Nuggets, the Avalanche, and the Colorado Mammoth of the National Lacrosse League, plus owning Pepsi Center and all of the local teams' media market. Obviously, Crystal, you have the building in place with Pepsi Center. You've got three other brother teams playing there in regards to the Nuggets, the Avalanche, and the Mammoth, and an owner, of course, who's got money coming out of it, money coming out of his what. Denver, I think, would be a pretty good place to start in regards to that. What would you say, though? I mean, obviously, the Nuggets, of course, have been, in the NBA for a long time, of course, and that's a pretty good populated city, of course. How about Denver? Trying that one on for size. What do you think?
Well, you can. It doesn't hurt to try. I again, I don't know how the fans out there will receive a team, but I mean, it doesn't hurt to try. I mean, you can try it, but I mean, there's so much money going to a WNBA team. It's like if it fails, you lose out on so much money. So I would say probably do a couple of preseason games there first and see how it is and see the turnout. And if it works, then go for it.
And Crystal, was the other thing too, real quick, and again, we're going to get to our last two topics here, Crystal, was in regards to, obviously, Crystal, again, folks, I hate to compare the WNBA to the NBA, but again, Crystal, the Lakers every preseason go on an 8-game tour of Southern California and 1 game in Las Vegas. And again, I know I'm comparing apples to oranges here, people. I'm fully aware of that. So don't think I don't know what I'm talking about. But again, Crystal, perhaps doing that in regards to having, certain teams. So again, either the Sparks go on a little SoCal little road trip, to Anaheim, San Diego, Ontario, somewhere, other arenas in Los Angeles, or the Mercury go across, the greater Phoenix area. Crystal, could that perhaps in a way somewhat help those other cities that obviously have fans? Again, I live in San Diego and I have either Phoenix 5 hours east or LA 2 hours up north. Crystal, could that type of a preseason in your mind somewhat, I guess, help out in regards to getting people interested in the sport? And again, all it would take, Crystal, is for someone to go to a game. So again, hypothetical situation, we have a game in San Diego, either at Viejas Arena or the JCP at USD or even at Valley View Casino Center. And it takes one person or one group with money that goes to the game. They enjoy the product. They say, hey, let's bring a team here, Crystal. Would that perhaps in a very small way help out in regards to what we could do perhaps for expansion? Or am I just blowing smoke out of my rear end?
The only way for it to work is if the WNBA extended their preseason. I mean, they have a really short training camp preseason as it is, so I don't know if you'd be able to put that many games in such a small time, especially when you have, a lot of players overseas and just now coming back from the overseas season and stuff. So I think the only way you can get that to work is definitely if you extend the preseason and training camp. If not, I don't know if they would have time to just travel back and forth like that. But I mean, it possibly can, like I said, if they were thinking of extending the preseason. If not, then I don't know if it'll work.
Again, folks, just throwing on hypothetical situations. I'll shrug my shoulders like Michael Jordan. But again, folks, hey, let's keep this conversation growing, folks, on Facebook and Twitter. Give us your thoughts. What cities would you enjoy or would you want to see get a WNBA expansion franchise? Again, this has been reported by a couple of sources on the mainstream media, at least in regards to, again, Lisa Borders being president, and somewhat been in negotiations, I think, with Joe LaCobe, the owner of the Golden State Warriors, in regards to, again, what we've talked about here, again, potential WNBA expansion at this point. And Todd chimes in to say, the Utah Stars did not draw well because, folks, that's coming from a Jazz fan right there. And he even said the Stars did not draw at Energy Solutions Arena, Delta, whatever. Todd, what was the arena called back then? I know it's Vivint Smart Home Arena, but what was it called back then? I know it was Delta for the Olympic Games, but I have no clue either. Michael Driver chimes in to say they tried a team in San Jose, ready for San Jose, already a D-League team there. And, of course, they have the Sharks and the San Jose Barracuda of the hockey ranks, at least. And Joe LaCobe did have his team in San Jose. They played at the Cal Palace up there for many, many years. Diana Graham says, from Louisiana would love a team in Louisiana, so perhaps the Pelicans can help out there at Smoothie King Center at this point in time. With that, though, Crystal, poll question, folks, officially closed on the network social media accounts. We'll go to the final results. And it is official, folks. 51% of the vote goes to Sylvia Fowles of the Minnesota Lynx, your this week's Player of the Week winner. She beats out Diana Taurasi with 20% of the vote. Tina Charles with 17% of the vote, and Elena Deladon at 12% of the vote out of the 41 voters for this week's poll question. Syl wins the vote. Again, 51% of the vote. Leading the team right now, folks, in points per game, rebounds, and blocks. And, of course, our team is 7-0. So, Crystal, obviously, the stat, I look more at that team record as being the reason why she gets Player of the Week, but also leading pretty much 3 of the 4 major offense categories again, doing it scoring-wise, doing it rebounding, and, of course, Crystal, the Camby Mutombo finger wags with those block shots. Crystal, thoughts about Big Syl? Finally, she's been in the poll, I think, every week, but she finally takes home Player of the Week honors from the network voters. What do you got?
Sylvia Fowles, she's been doing her thing. I mean, she's you know, a big part of the reason why that team is undefeated. Waylon and Waylon and Simone Augustus are they're not spring chickens anymore, as we said before. So there's games where they've been kind of silent, and Sylvia Fowles is a big reason on how they've been just dominant so far. And I know it's still early, but she's looking like a front runner for the MVP so far.
So again, folks, congrats to Big Sil. 51% of the vote. She is your this week's or last week's WNBA 365 Network Player of the Week. And Todd says Delta Center was the name of the arena back when the Jazz and Stars played back there in Utah, now called the Vivint Smart Home Arena, named after the Vivint Smart Home security systems. With that, Crystal, 3 games on the Tuesday schedule for Manana here. 3 games on the docket. First game up is the Mystics and Mystics and Wings, Storm and Stars, and the Sky and Sparks. All 3 of those games will be on the ESPN Family Networks and also on NBA TV for the late night game. Chris, we'll go with you first, or we'll go to you on this one. Again, Mystics and Wings from the College Park Center. KT, who you got?
I think that game's going to be back and forth. I'm going to say, though, the Mystics probably win a close one. I say the Mystics by, a few points.
Crystal, the way that the Mystics have kind of picked themselves off the canvas, and they had that 1-2 start, and then you would have thought the whole world was crashing down on our nation's capital. But again, they've rattled off 3 or 4 straight wins, and obviously, I know they still have area for improvement, Crystal. Obviously, with either the 3-point shooting way too much or the defense being a little iffy. And I think though they have just enough, I think, though, to get by this Dallas team. But Crystal, that Dallas team, though, I would not be a bit surprised, though, if Dallas won that game. I'm going to go with the Mystics being a squeaker, but that Dallas team, Crystal, is really, really fun to watch. Next game up, Crystal, Storm and Stars from AT&T Center in San Antonio. What do you got?
I'm going with Seattle in this one. I just don't think that – I do think San Antonio is going to get their first win, but definitely not against Seattle. I think Seattle's just a better team overall. I don't think that right now San Antonio can match up well against the Storm, so I'm going to say Seattle.
Yeah, Crystal, I think the Stars' best chance, and I think we even talked about this too with Wnba a couple days ago, was their best chance for a win was playing the Sun a couple days ago, and they let that one fall by the wayside, sadly. So I'm going to go with Seattle as well as they kick off a 3-game road trip here momentarily. Last game of the night, Crystal, you'll be at this game tomorrow, of course, the Sky and Sparks at 7:30 Pacific time from Staples Center in downtown LA on the Sparks Pride Night game. KT, what do you got for us? Anything?
I think LA beat Chicago. I think LA, that win in New York helped them kind of get their roll back. Especially, I was able to go to their open practice, and I could see the intensity level was different. I think this is the first time the team collectively all together got to practice with an actual practice and not just a shoot around. And it seemed like they were all on the same page, and it seemed like they were all connecting and clicking with each other. So based off of what I saw, I say LA, because it looks like they got their groove back. It looks like they're gelling, and it looks like their chemistry is starting to come together.
Crystal, not to make excuses for LA. Obviously, they had those 2 rough losses on the road in ATL and Indy. And I think, Crystal, it's a bit tough for a team when you have not been the hunted, of course, when you have that target on your back, and, of course, playing a little bit iffy those 2 games. And I think, as we said, that win in New York may have kind of jump-started that mojo back for this LA club. I mean, they played well at home the past couple of years, or in recent memory, they played pretty well. Again, they played very well at home during the postseason last year, obviously minus the Game 4 loss to the Lynx at Staples, but I also have LA winning. And also, Crystal, I think, though, too, that Chicago still needs a lot of help in regards to having players step up. I think, though, that Imani Boyette played a lot better, I think, in the last game that they played against Phoenix. But, of course, they still have a lot of holes right now. And I think LA will win this game on their home floor. Todd says the Sparks should score 100 points. He's hoping for 100 points because Chicago's defense has been terrible as of late. And Michael Driver also chimes in to say that Sylvia Fowles is a beast, heart and soul of that Minnesota team. So great stuff right there. But again, folks, your 3-game schedule for tomorrow: Mystics and Wings at 5 o'clock Pacific. Storm and Stars also at 5 p.m. Sky and Sparks, your late night game, 7:30 p.m. We'll have full coverage of the action following the Sky and Sparks game tomorrow night. Again, folks, as a friendly reminder once more, again, a important schedule for you folks. And we will be off air coming up here again on June 19th through the 25th. Again, I'll be on vacation for that whole week. And also, again, we'll be off there, too, during the entire week of the All-Star Game, because at this point, Crystal is probably going to be going to Seattle for the All-Star Game. I'll be out of town for a friend's birthday, and then again, also out of town and off there August 5th and 13th due to announcing commitments up in San Francisco. With that, folks, we thank the let's see, we topped out at about 9 people tonight. So again, folks, two back-to-back shows of almost 10+ live views. Again, folks, thank you very much for doing that and helping us out. For Crystal Thomas, folks, up in Los Angeles, this is Cal McClurg signing off from the Calamax Sports Studios in San Diego. And, folks, full recaps of all 3 games tomorrow night following the final buzzer sounding on the Sky and Sparks game. Again, 5 o'clock, first 2 games, 7:30 Pacific time for the late night game tomorrow. Till then, folks, take care and good night. Bye-bye.